In the wild jungles of Thailand, nature follows its own harsh laws. In this world, one creature's survival often comes at the cost of another's life. This is simply how the natural world works. However, when it comes to our beloved pets, such brutal reality becomes completely unthinkable. When Sarah and Mark took over an old family farm on the edges of Chiang Mai province, they soon discovered that their elderly dog was no longer capable of guarding the vast property that bordered the untamed tropical wilderness. This realization led them to make an important decision. They would get a golden retriever. "We need a strong, young dog," Mark said to Sarah one evening as they sat on their porch, watching their old companion struggle to patrol the property. "Something that can actually protect this place." The couple named their new puppy Max, and he flourished under the loving care of his new owners. An especially deep connection formed between the dog and Mark. Max would follow him around like a faithful shadow wherever he went. The dog was loving and gentle, but his actions sometimes worried Sarah, particularly when he would suddenly stop moving, stare intensely into the jungle, and then let out a low, threatening growl, as though he could see something that human eyes couldn't detect. Not long after the puppy joined their family, their old dog died peacefully from natural causes. Now, whenever Max went out with Mark, Sarah found herself completely alone on the property. For someone who had grown up in the city, this situation presented a real test of courage. The nights in the Thai jungle are unlike anywhere else. Completely dark without even a single street lamp, filled with strange monkey calls, and the constant sound of unknown creatures moving through the thick undergrowth. While some people might find this exciting, it's a different story when you're by yourself in an old house surrounded by wilderness. Whenever Mark needed to spend the night in the distant corners of their farm, Sarah couldn't escape her growing anxiety. Her husband, understanding her fears, came up with a thoughtful solution. One afternoon he came home and called out to Sarah, "Honey, could you grab something from the truck for me?" On the passenger seat, a wonderful surprise was waiting for her. A small golden retriever puppy, wagging its tail enthusiastically and eagerly covering her face with wet kisses. They decided to call the puppy Bella, and she immediately won over not just Sarah but Max as well. The two dogs became the best of friends, but one terrible day, everything would change in the most heartbreaking way possible. By the time Bella reached 3 years old, life on their farm had developed into a comfortable routine. The days were quiet and predictable. Max continued to go with Mark on his daily work around the property, while Bella had become Sarah's constant companion and source of comfort. On that terrible day, Mark came back from his work and asked Sarah, "Where's Max? I haven't seen him anywhere." Sarah felt a chill run down her spine. "I haven't seen him all day either," she replied nervously. "I thought he was with you." At that moment, fear gripped both of them. Throughout the entire day, Bella had been strangely agitated, barking non-stop and trying to run off somewhere, forcing Sarah to keep her locked inside the house. Now, the couple understood that the dog must have sensed something was terribly wrong. The last time anyone had spotted Max was early that morning when he had gone outside first. He always got up earlier than Bella, who preferred to sleep in longer. It appeared that her decision to stay behind that morning might have been a fatal error. Taking Bella on her leash, the worried farmers hoped the dog would guide them to Max. The dog pulled them forward urgently, barking with intensity, and led them down a dusty trail behind their house. What they discovered there filled them with absolute terror. The unmistakable trail of an enormous python curved across the ground, but that wasn't what captured their attention most. Scattered around the area were clumps of golden fur, some clearly stained with blood. Bella made soft whimpering sounds, and the couple knew immediately. She understood what had happened too. They would never see Max again. In the growing darkness, there was nothing more they could do, so they returned home with broken hearts. Mark was consumed with fury and grief. "I'm going to find that snake," he said through gritted teeth. "I'm going to make it pay for what it did." At sunrise, he went out to hunt for the python. Even though it was too late to save Max, they couldn't allow such a dangerous snake to remain so close to their home. With a chicken coop in their backyard, they understood how exposed they were to future attacks. But despite the fact that the python should have been slow and sluggish after consuming such a large meal, they were unable to locate it. The trail vanished into the tall grass, as though the snake had somehow been lifted into the sky. The farmers spent several days searching, but the python seemed to have disappeared completely into the jungle. Months went by. The rainy season came, and the python probably found a comfortable place to rest and wait out the weather. Back at their home, Sarah and Mark couldn't stop blaming themselves for what had happened. Even Bella appeared depressed. She slept much more than usual and put on weight from being less active. At least, that's what they believed until Sarah noticed something unexpected. Bella was expecting puppies. She was pregnant with Max's offspring. It felt like a small miracle, as if a piece of their beloved dog would come back to them. "Look at this," Sarah said excitedly, gently touching Bella's growing belly. "It's like Max is giving us a gift, even after everything that happened." The couple took extra care of Bella, making sure she stayed close to home. Losing her or the unborn puppies would be more than they could bear. They had made all the necessary arrangements. Bella was supposed to be taken to the veterinarian a day or two before she was due to give birth. But puppies, just like human babies, don't follow schedules. One evening, when they returned home from dinner, they found Bella in her bed with 2 tiny puppies beside her. As they watched in amazement, Bella began to move restlessly again, and soon a 3rd puppy was born. However, this one showed no signs of being alive. Mark carefully picked up the puppy in his hands, gently massaging it, holding it against his chest, and breathing into its small nose. "Come on, little one," he whispered desperately. "You can do this." Suddenly, the puppy began to breathe. When he was placed back with his mother, everyone could see how much he looked like Max when he was a puppy. It brought both happiness and sadness at the same time. For several months, life was peaceful and content. The puppies brought so much joy to their lives that the pain of losing Max slowly began to heal. But this perfect life couldn't continue forever. The danger was much nearer than anyone could have imagined. By the beginning of the dry season, the puppies were old enough to play outside in the yard. The house had a strong fence designed to prevent the dogs from wandering into the jungle, but on that particular day, it wouldn't make any difference. While Bella was supervising the puppies as they played, something caught her attention. A sound or a smell. Before she could respond, the puppies were dangerously close to a massive python that had somehow entered their yard. Bella immediately threw herself between the snake and her babies, trying desperately to protect her puppies. But they were too young and curious to understand the serious danger they were in. Each time one of them moved too close to the snake, Bella would block their path. But it was difficult to watch all 3 of them at once. Concentrating so hard on keeping the puppies safe, she didn't notice the python getting ready to attack. If Bella had been watching the snake instead, she might have been able to dodge its strike. But considering that this was probably the same python that had killed Max, who knows how the situation would have ended anyway. Before she could react, the snake wrapped itself around her, squeezing with tremendous force. Sarah was inside the house when she heard Bella barking loudly. She was about to go outside to see what was happening when the barking suddenly stopped. "Everything must be fine now," she thought to herself, not realizing that the dog had become silent because she could no longer breathe. Mark who was working in his workshop, saw nothing at all. If either of them had checked the security cameras, they would have immediately seen the terrible danger that Bella was facing. The dog was completely trapped in the python's deadly grip, unable to bark and barely able to breathe. Was this going to be the end? Would the snake leave the 3 puppies without their mother? The python squeezed even tighter, and then something amazing happened. Just when all hope seemed lost, all 3 puppies began barking frantically. They even tried to bite the snake, though their tiny bites were no more effective than pinpricks. Their loud barking only made the python angrier, causing it to bite down on Bella to get a better grip and squeeze even harder. The puppies couldn't actually help their mother physically, but their desperate barking got Sarah's attention. She had never heard them bark in such a panicked way before. The fact that Bella's barking had stopped completely now frightened her even more. What she saw when she looked into the yard filled her with absolute horror. Her beloved Bella was trapped in the coils of one of the largest pythons she had ever laid eyes on. The 3 puppies were running around frantically, watching helplessly as the snake crushed their mother. Not wasting a single second, Sarah quickly secured the puppies in a nearby cage. It was essential to keep them out of harm's way. She screamed as loudly as she could for Mark to bring vinegar and come immediately. "Mark, Mark, get the vinegar and come now! Hurry!" she shouted desperately. Hearing Sarah's terrified screams, Mark instantly knew that something awful had happened. He suspected it was the same python that had killed Max. The couple was absolutely determined not to lose another dog to this creature. Pouring vinegar on the python's head, they knew it might hurt Bella's wounds, but saving her life was more important than anything else. The snake loosened its grip slightly, trying to get rid of the burning sensation. This gave Mark and Sarah the opportunity they needed to slip their hands between the snake and Bella. "Start at the tail," Mark instructed Sarah breathlessly. "That's where it's weakest." Beginning at the tail end, the python's most vulnerable point, they carefully began unwrapping its coils. At the same time, they worked to keep the snake's head away from Bella to prevent it from biting her again. Soon, Bella was free from the python's grip. Though they had no idea how badly she might be injured inside, she began breathing deeply and making small whining sounds. She was alive. While Mark held the snake firmly, Sarah ran to get a large container. They could have taken revenge on the creature that had already taken 1 dog from them and nearly killed another. But they were people who believed in trying to live peacefully with nature. "We're not killers," Sarah said firmly, though her voice shook with emotion. "This snake is just trying to survive. Same as us." They understood that the python was simply a wild animal following its instincts to survive. Killing it for revenge wasn't the right solution. However, leaving it anywhere near their home wasn't an option either. It would probably return again and again looking for easy prey. After making air holes in the container lid, they decided to deal with the snake later. Right now, getting Bella to the veterinarian was the most urgent priority. They secured the puppies safely inside the house and rushed to the animal clinic. Bella was awake and responsive, but clearly suffering from pain. The python could have broken her bones or caused serious internal damage. They also needed to make sure the bite wound wouldn't become infected. Even though pythons don't have venom, any wound can become seriously inflamed if not treated properly. X-ray images showed several cracked ribs, but overall, Bella was incredibly fortunate. If the puppies hadn't tried to protect her and hadn't alerted the humans to the danger, things could have ended very differently. For many days afterward, they had to make sure the puppies didn't jump on their mother or disturb her healing injuries. They carefully cleaned and treated her bite wound and gave her all the medicine the veterinarian had prescribed. To their enormous relief, Bella recovered quickly and completely. Now their entire family was safe and sound. Sarah and Mark decided to keep all 3 puppies. They had plenty of room on their farm for 4 dogs. The male puppy that Mark had saved at birth grew up to look exactly like his father, developing the same strong bond with Mark that Max had once shared. As for the python, it was carefully transported to a nature preserve where it could live freely without threatening anyone. "Every creature deserves to live," Mark said as they watched the snake being taken away. "We just need to respect each other's space." Every evening, as the sun disappears behind the tropical forest, Sarah and Mark smile with contentment, watching their 4-legged family playing together. Bella keeps a watchful eye on her children, who guard the farm with dedication and loyalty. Though the pain of losing Max will never completely go away, his spirit lives on in his puppies, and his story has become a local legend about love, loyalty, and the importance of protecting those you care about most. Did you enjoy this story? When Sarah and Mark finally caught the python that killed Max and nearly killed Bella, what would you have chosen? Kill it for revenge or relocate it to a safe place far away? Let us know in the comments below. If you liked the story, subscribe to this channel and leave a like. Every choice we make reveals who we are and what we value most. Thanks so much for listening. See you in the next video. Have a great day.